Hey, so welcome to the VET S.O.S. Presents the Operation Startup. Hey, so we are new. We have changed our name for the new year. New name, new look. We're Operation Startup now with the VET S.O.S. podcast. So remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S. Lifeline. The Operation Startup is proud to be affiliated with the Neil Haley Show and sponsored by Spirit Point Solutions. So if you don't know, Spirit Point Solutions is a one-stop shop for leading-edge products, services, and training from multiple vendors. That's from your AI training to your corporate gifts and so many things in between. They have everything you need to help your organization thrive in a modern economy. So check out all the valuable offers at spiritpointonline.com. Say that again, spiritpointonline.com. And remember to use our code, please, VET S.O.S. on anything you purchase there that will help us continue our mission of improving the lives of those who have served. Today's show, we have Mr. Charlie Garcia. Charlie's the founder of R360, where he focuses on turning the privilege of wealth into a force and for good and shaping a better world for future generations. A highly decorated veteran, Charlie has advised 6 U.S. presidents, earned top national honors for service, including the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, and after 9/11, the CIA Agency SEAL Medal, and the Director of National Intelligence Medallion. His public leadership spans education, national security, and crisis reform, including advancing literacy outcomes and leading the U.S. Air Force Academy Board of Directors. An accomplished entrepreneur, Charlie found Sterling Financial, expanding across 8 countries, wow, before a successful sale. A multi-time Entrepreneur of the Year, he has advised Fortune 500 boards and startups alike. He is also the author of Charles Garcia's Street Sense, Market Watch's first external column in over a decade, and publishes a Substack at cpgarcia.substack.com. Man, you've been busy, brother. How are you today,
Busy,
Charlie?
busy. And I have 4 kids and 3 grandkids. What do you think?
Yeah, you definitely a busy man. You definitely
Yeah,
busy. How are you today, man?
I am great coming to you from Daytona Beach, Florida, where I live now.
Absolutely, man. You're right down the road. I'm here in Jacksonville. So let's go ahead and hop into the interview. So take me back, Charlie. Looking back in your transition from the military, what were those 3 big lessons you can tell our audience that help you transition from military life to what we call in the military civilian life, and how do those lessons shape who you are today?
Well, look, the most important thing is that nobody cares about your rank. Whatever you did in the military, now
Amen.
you're in civilian life and you got to prove yourself all over again. And it's
Yes.
humbling and interesting how many people you work with that never actually met someone in the military.
Mm,
Second, how do you translate your skills, but don't abandon them? So everything the military taught me transferred: pattern recognition, operating under pressure, leading teams through chaos, making decisions with incomplete information, but you have to learn civilian language. So I ran intel operations in Central America becomes I manage complex, high stakes project in ambiguous environments, same skills, different vocabulary.
mhm.
And then I'd say third is just you got to find your tribe. So I think the hardest part of the transition is losing your people. In the military, you're surrounded by people who get it. And in civilian life, it's kind of, you feel completely alone sometimes. So I found peer groups, YPO, Vistage, and I eventually founded my own. So I think finding people who can challenge you, who can have your back, is everything. Because if you
Mhm.
try to do it alone, it's a losing recipe.
Absolutely. Completely agree with everything you said there, man. So now let's hop into this entrepreneur business. Take me back to that moment that sparked you to want to do the entrepreneur thing, because we know as military, sometimes we go the safe route, just get a federal job, get a contracting job, because that's what we're used to, and we're kind of what we really know. I mean, we're kind of like, sometimes we hop right out of one job, hop right into another job that we just did while we're still in. But what made you say, hey, I'm not going that route. I want to go with the entrepreneur route?
I thought I was going to do something safe, and I decided to go to law school.
Hmm.
And when I was in law school, I was working in a law firm in Miami in the summer as an associate. And I was working with the head of the banking department. We were taking these banks public. They were coming out at 50% of book value at $10, but they'd open up at 17, 18, 19. And Raymond James was on the deal and they said, "Hey, do you want to buy any stock?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I bought 4,000 shares.
Mm-hmm.
I had some money saved up from the military. And the next day it opens up at 19. So I was like, "Damn, I just made 36,000 bucks, which is half of my first year salary back then.
Wow.
And I'm going to have to work 3,000 hours in a year." I was
Mm-hmm.
so happy. I came in and the guy who set it up, this associate's looking down. I was like, "Dude, we just made some serious money." He said, "I talked to the banking partner, Carlos, and he told me this wasn't kosher. So he made me cancel the trade." And at that moment, I decided, you know what? Laws of business. There's better ways to make money than tying my self to an hourly wage.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a buddy of mine from the Air Force who worked at Raymond James. So he set me up with an account and I started learning while I was in law school how to trade. And I ended up making more money trading. Uh, and I said, you know what? This is for me. So I ended up not practicing law. My mom and dad are like, "What? What are you doing?" But I started a bank and thrift hedge fund, which was my first business. And I grew it 37% a year for 3 years.
Wow.
And once you have a track record like that, you can go out and raise some serious money. The problem, I was married at the time, and most of the money was my father in law's. And when you're doubling someone's money every 2 years, they're not that interested in you doing anything else but that.
Yeah.
So I decided then to go off on my own and I started a company called Sterling Financial, and that's what grew over time. But my background was in intelligence. So what I noticed that the biggest disparities were in healthcare and biotech. And
Mm.
I also noticed that nobody would initiate coverage with a sell recommendation. So everybody is trying to get investment banking business. So I basically started an intelligence agency covering stocks, and my insiders were doctors. My father was a doctor, so I knew, and my mother was a nurse. So we ended up in the Wall Street Journal twice. We would write intel reports, but our clients were hedge funds.
Mm.
And our stuff was so good that they would then trade through us, and we made markets in these companies. And that's really how I grew, by applying what I had in the military, which
Mm.
is a background in intelligence. But now, instead of telling a colonel or a general where the next attack was going to be, I was figuring out what companies were full of shit and what companies actually had a drug or a product that I thought people could make money on. And then I just built it from there.
Wow. So now for you, I mean, other than making money, what's been the most rewarding part about being an entrepreneur? What's that thing that gets you up every day?
Look, to me, and I sold that business, but having a team, I had over 500 people working for me,
Uh-huh.
and when they're able to support a family, and we had a very tight culture, and we were in 8 different countries, so I love to travel, and that was great. Now I have a smaller team of 26. I like to lead, um, and, just every day getting a little bit better. But today, the company that I run, R360 Global, we are aggregating 1,000 people globally, 500 in the US and 500 abroad, that have created at least 100 million in wealth. And they want to use their family, their resources, and their money to be a force for good in the world by solving some of the world's most intractable problems.
Mm.
My ambition is to touch 3 billion people on the planet in a positive way before I die, and I can't do it by myself.
Yeah.
So it's helping others who have 80% of our 175 members and growing are first time entrepreneurs. 17 didn't go to college. 11 didn't graduate from high school. 5 of the 11 are billionaires. Super humble people that generosity of spirit is one of their big values, and they want to now take the blessings that they've been able to create and help others. So that's inspiring. And when I wake up in the morning and I know that, we have a very selective process. We've been called the most exclusive private members club in the world by
Wow.
3 different magazines. And we're always number one because we've turned down 72 applicants, including 9 billionaires. So it's not about how much money you have. It's like, do you have a demonstrated track record of putting your time, your treasure to work to solve big problems to benefit others?
Wow. I'm sure those billionaires weren't happy about that.
No, and a couple were friends of mine. I'm not on the membership committee, so needless to say, they're not friends anymore.
Oh man. Now, 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 Charlie, we know that being an entrepreneur isn't always the greatest. I mean, you know, starting up an entrepreneur business really is some hard work. So, what was the hardest or most frustrating part about your journey, and how'd you deal with it?
Couple things. One is, as an entrepreneur, you have these incredible emotional highs and lows. And I had to learn not to bring it home.
Mm,
My wife did not come from an entrepreneurial background. She came from professionals,
mhm,
and not all my businesses succeeded. I had 4 or 5. I raised money, blah, 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 and they failed, right? So you need to have a partner that understands. And if they don't come from a entrepreneurial family, you have to learn not to bring the bad news home or the highs sometimes, you know? And, the other thing I think was just loneliness at the top. When you're the founder, the buck stops with you. In the military, there was always a chain of command, albeit
yeah.
someone that you could talk to. So what really helped me out when somebody told me about this organization called YPO, the Young Presidents Organization,
Mhm,
and they also told me about Vistage, and I joined them both about the same time. So I had 8 people in YPO and 15 in Vistage, became like brothers and sisters. And if I had a business problem, I could bring it to them. I had a situation where I was about to go out of business because I was in a regulated business. A hurricane had come by and lights went out and a trade didn't get booked. And it's
mm,
like, oops, the next day it's like, you're gonna have to bring 5 million in capital in 10 days, or the regulators are gonna shut you down. It's like, well,
jeez.
where am I gonna get 5 million bucks? So I had a meeting
Mhm,
and I went and I told my Vistage group about it. And, and then on the way to the car, 2 of the guys said, come with us. I
mm,
went and they each stroked a check for 2.5 million. And I said, "Could I pay him back in less than 60 days?" I said, "Absolutely," because it was just a regulatory issue. So I deposited the money. Regulators came, no problem, and within 30 days, really, I gave them their money back. But it just demonstrates. One of the guys was almost 80 years old. The other was the distributor for Red Bull in South Florida, both very successful. But you know, to
yeah,
stroke a $2.5 million check on a handshake, nothing. I mean, that's a brotherhood, that's so
yes.
that to me is, having that support group that has your
Mhm.
back is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, that's definitely a true brotherhood right there to stroke you a check right there. No paperwork, no nothing, and and I mean no guarantee. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. So now, when you were getting out or when you were to start up your entrepreneurial business, did you tap into any veterans programs, mentorships? Did you do any of those? And then you
I
recommend?
I led a whole bunch of those, but I really had mentors, so I stayed close to. I was in the Air Force, but I ended up working for a four-star general who became the head of NATO, John Galvin. And after NATO, he went to be the head of Tufts University. So I stayed close with him. And then I had a former Marine captain who became a big, important, influential person on Wall Street. That his name was Max Chapman, and he became the chairman of my board. So I tried to surround myself with people that understood the military. I had another guy who was a big trader. He had been in Vietnam. Uh, Also, that gave me just incredible advice that really saved my ass a few times. So
Mhm.
for me, it was more surrounding myself with people with a lot of military experience that
Yes.
had my back.
Got you. So you basically took that same military culture of people and added it to your business to kind of keep you going. It sounds like it.
Oh, absolutely. When I was working for this four-star general, he had given me the first assignment, and then I came in, I asked him all these questions, and then he like came up, said, "How many stars do I have on my shoulder?" "4, sir. What about you?" And like an idiot, I'm looking, I'm a second lieutenant. And I said, "None, sir." I said, "If you want me to solve your problems, what I need you for, get the fuck out of my office." And, I'm about to hit the door and I'm thinking, where am I going to get reassigned to? And he was like, "Lieutenant." I was like, "Yes, sir. Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions." So 2 or 3 days later, I came with a solution. I told him, he got up, and again, he came to me and he said, "Don't ever bring me one solution. Bring me at least three and tell me why you picked that one over the other two." So he knew the answer all along. He was
Uh-huh.
just training me. So I took that same culture into my company,
Mhm.
and I came back from a trip once, and my team had created these above my door, these big wooden letters. "Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions." Because, when I started my company, it was just one person, and then you grow. And
Mhm.
I would tell people, "Look, I hired you because I've done your job, but you're supposed to be 10 times smarter than me. You want me to do your job. What the fuck do I need to pay you for?" And I would tell them the story. And it was a great thing that, you learn a lot in the military, but that was a great lesson for me. It's like, you're here to solve problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now tell us more about you gave us a little bit of information about R360. Um if any, I mean, hope we do have some billionaires listening to this show. If they wanted to be a part of it, what's the process? Who do you serve? What makes you different than what else is going on out
Yeah,
here in
look,
the
I
world?
tell people to go to my website, charliepgarcia.com, because if they go there, they can sign up for my Substack. It's free. I write 5 times a week about how people can be successful. To join R360, you have to have a net worth of 100 million or more. And that website is R360Global.com. W- we do have 2 or 3 military guys that have joined recently. Um, and, and I always look for the military guys that join because it isn't easy to have that kind of wealth. And usually it takes some time and you have to, um, build and sell a company.
Mhm.
Now, we do have a member that put back in 2011, I think when Bitcoin was $1, he took his 5,000 bar mitzvah money and he bought Bitcoin. And now he's
Mm,
a billionaire. But those are like buying a lucky lottery ticket, I think.
yes, got you. All right, so give us those two websites that people can find you at. CharliePSubstack.com is what you said.
Charlie P. Garcia
Garcia.
is the website, charliepgarcia.com. So if you go there, you can sign up for the Substack.
Got you.
And it also has my other website there with his R360 Global is the other website that talks about what I'm up to right now.
Got you. So now, Charlie, before we go, I have one last question for you. Give our viewers, listeners, one piece of advice before they start up their entrepreneurial business.
Look, the biggest mistake I've made is not having a process to grow and to scale your business. MIT, I taught there for a year. They produce more entrepreneurs than Stanford. And the head of entrepreneurship, his name is Bill Aulette. And he wrote a book called Disciplined Entrepreneurship, 24 Steps to a Successful Startup. And the businesses that I have started that have been very successful have followed those 24 steps. And he divides them into 6 buckets. Bucket number 1 is, who is your customer? Number 2, what can you do for your customer? How do you provide value? Number 3, how does your customer acquire your product? 4 is, how do you make money off your product? Number 5, how do you design and build your product? And lastly, how do you scale your business? Now, under each of those 6 buckets are questions, 24 total. And before starting any company, I go through that process before launch. And then secondly, there's a book called The Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman. It has 20 tools on how to build your business. And I use those 20 tools. I've used them on 6 different companies that I've started. And I wish somebody had at the beginning said, hey, before you launch a new business, go through this methodology where MIT looked at thousands of companies and what was the difference between the ones that succeeded and the ones that failed. The ones that succeeded went through these 24 steps.
Mm,
Then once you launch the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, it's like an SOP with 20 different tools. And I guarantee you, if you follow every single one of those in terms of hiring and everything else in there, you're going to be successful. Too many businesses of mine that failed, I just had a great idea and I thought, I'm just going to go do it instead of, part of that Bill Aulette is you got to call 100 potential customers,
mm,
talk to them about this product. Would they buy it and at what price? And so you're doing all kinds of market research and things like that before launching. And the last thing is the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Um, the small book is like 250 pages, but the real book is called Laws of Success, which is about 1,200 pages. And I would buy the Laws of Success and I would read that.
mm.
No better. I think it's still the most popular business book of all time. And then surround yourself with mentors that have been there, done that, people that are 60, 70, they've made it. They love to be mentors. And if they're in the military, they're more likely to give you a hand.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Hey, and thank you, Charlie, for joining us on the VET S.O.S podcast today. On behalf of the VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. You can find the VET S.O.S podcast on all your favorite platforms, also YouTube, social media platforms. And when you go, make sure you subscribe and follow VET S.O.S so you don't miss anything like this amazing interview we did today with Charlie. Remember, don't drown in your transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.
Thank you, Maurice.
Thank you, Charlie.